Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wicked Sports Podcast, where we cover mostly football, but when it's just me, but also all the other sports when I have my co-hosts available today. Just a Brian episode, but we have a lot of interesting stuff happening around the NFL that we can talk about. We'll do a Miami Minute, where we talk about my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins, and other than that, let's just jump right into it. Starting off with Geno Smith signing a 2-year extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. So, I think this is a great move from the Raiders. The Raiders have really gone through the gambit of quarterbacks these last few years. They gave up on Derek Carr, which I think, given the general lack of success, makes sense. He was a very solid quarterback who never could really get them over the hump. He only made the playoffs 2 times in his career. One of those times he broke his leg near the end of the season, so he didn't even get to play in them. The other one was a wild card exit against the Cincinnati Bengals when the Bengals would go on to play in the Super Bowl that season. But ultimately, it was time to move on, and they tried to move on with Jimmy Garoppolo, which was horrible. Jimmy Garoppolo, very handsome, but not very effective as the Las Vegas Raiders quarterback. Then they tried, Aiden O'Connell, as a young rookie and then second-year player last year. That didn't work. Gardner Minshew, everyone thought hey, Gardner Minshew, he's been a starter in this league. He's had some success in this league. Perhaps he's the future of the Raiders, or at the very least a stopgap who can play somewhat solidly. That wasn't the case either. Went back to Aiden O'Connell and just an absolute mess. Well, this was all going on. Geno Smith, who I think a lot of people saw him as a outright failure after his time with the New York Jets, was reclaiming his career with the Seattle Seahawks, making a Pro Bowl and just playing extremely well and kind of making the Jets look horrible for not really being able to get the most out of Geno Smith. So Geno Smith has 3 solid seasons with the Seahawks, and he wants a contract extension. The Seahawks, newer coaching staff, they're like, no, we're not doing that. They trade him. They trade DK Metcalf as well. So just a completely new look team. They signed Sam Darnold. We'll see how that goes. Another former New York Jet who is looking to continue to improve his career after a good season with Minnesota, now with the Seattle Seahawks. So the Seahawks traded Geno Smith to the Raiders, and the Raiders seemingly were more than happy to give Geno Smith a new contract, which is, again, a 2-year extension for $85.5 million with $66.5 million guaranteed. And this is going to run through the 2027 season. So they'll have them 25, 26, and 27. And again, I think this is a very solid move by the Las Vegas Raiders. I think Geno Smith has managed to establish himself as one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL these last few seasons. Top 10, I would say, top 15 at worst when he's healthy. So a huge step up for the Raiders here, and hopefully will allow them to have some stability as they go in with their new head coach once again. They've had a lot of head coaches in their time in Las Vegas. Obviously, John Gruden being fired due to those emails being leaked. That was out of their control, but hopefully they'll be able to have some success now. Moving forward, if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan, are you happy, one, with being, traded Geno Smith? Do you like him as a short-term starter? And 2, do you like this extension to potentially have him as a long-term starter? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments. So, the Patriots drafted 2 quarterbacks last season. Obviously, Drake May in the first round, he was going to be their future, and I still think he will be their future. But they also took a flyer on former Tennessee Volunteer quarterback Joe Milton. And I have to say, as someone who lives in Massachusetts, so I get to watch the preseason games for the Patriots, he really impressed me. I think that he had the potential to become a starter in the NFL. And then at the very end of the season, the put him out there in, I think it was against the Bills, the last game of the season, and he went 22 of 29, or 75.9 pass completion percentage, or 241 yards, one touchdown, no picks, and a rating of 111.4. He also rushed for 10 yards, or 10 yards, 16 yards on 10 carries and another touchdown. And he ended up getting the win for the Patriots, which I think, proved that this is a guy who potentially could be a starter, if not, at least not a solid backup in the NFL. So when this offseason started, I was fully expecting the Patriots to trade Joe Milton for, I don't know, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick at worst. But ultimately what ended up happening was the Patriots traded Milton to the Dallas Cowboys. The Patriots also sent a 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2025 5th-round pick. So a little bit more value than what they spent on Joe Milton, as they drafted him in the 6th round of the 2024 NFL draft. But this kind of shows that, this is Vrabel's team. He's going to do what he wants. He's not going to get hung up on people that they drafted in the past or anything like that. So obviously he didn't feel very strongly about Joe Milton one way or the other. And ultimately they ended up trading him to the Dallas Cowboys, which I think is a good move for the Cowboys, because Dak Prescott, do we think that he is going to be the long-term starter for the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, he's 31 years old. Obviously, he's had some pretty great seasons with the Cowboys, but I could see them potentially moving on and wanting to see what they have in Joe Milton. And then, on top of that, Dak Prescott last season only played in 8 games, right? So he's, these are the last 5 full seasons for Dak Prescott. 5 starts, 5 games. 16 starts, 16 games. That's good. 12 starts in 12 games. Not as good. 17 and 17. Good. Full season. And then last year, 8 starts on 8 games and a 3-5 record. So I think now is the time to potentially look at what the Cowboys have for options other than Dak Prescott. If you're a Cowboys fan, let me know. Do you think this is foolish the way I'm speaking? Do you think that Joe Milton is a good move for the Cowboys? You think that he could potentially become a starter, or at least have an opportunity to play a lot given Dak's recent injury history? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments. Hey everyone, welcome to the Miami Minute, where we cover my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. And let's get this out of the way, shall we? The Miami Dolphins have had an unfortunate week or so. So I wrote a blog for DolphinsTalk.com where I kind of speculated about some of their unanswered questions. And 2 of those questions were, will the Dolphins get Teron Armstead back? And will Calais Campbell come back as well? And I'm not somebody who likes to shy away from stuff when I'm wrong. So I was wrong in both of my takes. I thought that Calais Campbell was going to retire. Instead, he signed a 1-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals, the team that he started his career with. So that's disappointing. The Dolphins couldn't re-sign him despite Teron Armstead clearly wanting to continue to play. Not great from the Dolphins' perspective there. And now it leaves the Dolphins in the lurch somewhat, given the fact that they really, really don't have many defensive tackles. So this is going to be something that went from we're in an okay position to we desperately need to address this in the draft. That's on top of having to address our quarterback situation. Oh, and also our offensive line situation, which just got worse. I thought Teron Armstead would come back one more year, give it another go, and I was wrong. He's not coming back. He is officially retired. So, of course, congratulations to Teron Armstead. Heck of a career. Played well with the Dolphins when he was on the field, though he was injured quite frequently with the Dolphins, which is, of course, very disappointing. And I think that kind of sums up the Dolphins' offensive line situation over the last few years, where it's like, oh man, if only they had a healthy offensive line and had healthy star players, they could be really, really good. But unfortunately, that's not the case. They are not having any health luck, really. And Teron Armstead was like the poster child for bad luck, injury luck here. So now the Dolphins are going to continue with Patrick Paul. He's a huge man. Hopefully he'll be as good as his size would lead you to believe he's potentially able to be that good. But at the end of the day, it's just, another very disappointing saga for the Miami Dolphins, and bad luck for me because I'm not an insider. I'm as an outsider as you get. I can only go off vibes, but the vibes that I thought I was getting with Armstead staying were evidently not the vibes in reality. So, whoops, bad on my part. I hope that you still read Dolphins Talk and read my blogs there, but now the Dolphins are going to have to really address the offensive and defensive line, and it's becoming clearer and clearer to me that my expectations for this upcoming season, they have to be about as low as they've ever possibly been in my life watching the Dolphins. So what are your thoughts about this if you're a Dolphins fan? How disappointed are you not getting either Calais Campbell or Teron Armstead back? If you're like me, I imagine you're very disappointed, but let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Wicked Sports Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed talking to you about these 3 NFL stories. We got more stories coming this week, so make sure you check out the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you check out our main channel, Wicked Everything. Our alternate channels, which, include Those Fake Nerds, which is kind of like this channel, but instead of sports, it's video game, pop culture news. And then our podcasting channel, Better Radio. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.